Super bounces are a monolith. The unattainable, strangely ritualistic, and exhilarating thrill of squeezing a Spartan into the stitched seams of a map, sinking in just enough that the game realizes what you've done and has to correct the mistake. It sends you flying to the atmosphere of the skybox and hangs you there, slow motion. Invisible walls bow before the presence, giving you a glimpse of something beyond the normal limits of the map. It's a strange world out there, incomplete, barren, a low-poly landscape that tastes of exploration, and a game that rarely lets you off its tight grip rails. The experience is intoxicating to the point of compulsion. Turf, Ascension, burial mounds, Zanzibar. You become an archaeologist of the maps, scouring them with a strange toothed comb, becoming familiar in a way you never would have following the heat maps of combat. You're playing the game in a way the developer never could have imagined, entering this space of neither playing the game nor not playing the game, but something in between. And the spaces you find yourself in confirm that feeling, unfinished but accessible. No normal points of entry, but yet still playable. In a way, it's eerie. Especially if you find yourself there alone. Nothing to occupy the space around you but your battle rifle and your thoughts. How are things going, by the way? Who are you worrying about right now? Do you not want to talk about it? It's strange, but there's a lot up there when there's not much down here in meat space. It's like in No Man's Sky when you leave one planet and head to the next and you're going as fast as you can, but the distance between the planets is so large and you're so tiny, so you're just surrounded by space and rock and dust, and it's going to take nearly 10 minutes of flying just to get to the atmosphere. And that's 10 minutes of silence because there's not much happening there in space, so your brain naturally, when it's not constantly taking things in, begins to dump goop out to fill in the cosmos, and it's purple and it's thick and it's all you can feel and see, and you think about the conversation from 3 years ago and what you could have said that was different and how you could have changed it and why you're so weird when you're around other people. And you might have seen these pictures on Reddit. Liminal spaces, places where the air is off and aches of nostalgia. People say these pictures are unsettling, and I feel it too. It's the same feeling I get staring off the edge of Delta Halo after getting blown up the cliffside and looking into the void, worried that I could fall and find down there some kind of limbo, a purgatory. Liminality comes from the Latin word meaning threshold, which is any place that takes you from one place to another. The door to your bathroom, for instance, is a threshold. And that indeterminate space between the rooms, the one the doorframe shields from your eyes, the space where you're neither all the way in the bathroom nor still in the previous room, that is liminality. Neither on the map nor off the map. It's a store, but obviously not a store. You can replace those two rooms with any two places, and the space between them would still be liminal. The Shire and Mount Doom, for instance. All journeys, therefore, take place in liminal space. The road has a song all to its own. Sometimes when I stay in the same place for more than a few nights and I take some time to lie in the grass and stare at the clouds, I can forget that the song is even there. But eventually it always calls to me, and I'll put on my cloak again, grab my walking stick, and set foot once more. That's a quote from the opening of Wanderhome, a tabletop role-playing game from J-Dragon, and it talks of bleeding when complacent. The act of being in only a single spot quells the song in your character's heart. And it is only in transition, travel, where you can truly be. Wanderhome as a text ritualizes the threshold, drawing your attention to the pause before the trip, allowing you to enter and feel the liminality around you. There's not a game master to guide you, and it's up to you to decide if there will be any guide at all. You choose the feel of your journey, whether you will lean into trauma and recovery, or keep it more upbeat as you trek the pastoral landscape. There's a sort of meta-liminality happening where you are playing a character about to go on a journey, but also you as a person are stopping and reflecting before you begin the journey of play. You ask questions out loud about where you just traveled from and how long that journey has felt for you, and then silently, to yourself, whispering to the space between the wall of your mind, will you someday find a home? The idea of liminal space as a psychological one isn't new. Any moment in your life where you are transitioning from one place or idea to the next, or to an entirely different version of you, qualifies. These are moments where your old world is destroyed, its God pulled down from up on high, and you are thrust into a chaotic spin of uncertainty. Liminal spaces, when we see them incarnated as physical ones, are unsettling because they remind us of those psychological journeys, of the tension, the pain, and even the boredom. The image of an empty Target or abandoned mall store is the personification of floating directionless in the space between our old, dead life and the new, as of yet unseen one, and that can feel like failure. After all, an empty store is a failed store. You look at them and can't imagine them being a store again, only as something otherworldly, existing as they are now, forever empty. The abject failure of design, the incomplete nature of a level, reflects that same feeling back on us. That we are incomplete, as of yet unrendered. That if we plunder ourselves to find anything not on our normal path, these tight rails of life, that we'll only find the incomplete constructs that we left behind from our old lives. Those thoughts that keep you up at night. Maybe you messed up back there. Maybe you should never have left. But failure in the eyes of Wanderhome is just another threshold to a new you. Sometimes you struggle to do something, or get passed over, or do something you wished you hadn't, or give up. Even those moments aren't truly failures. Mistakes, maybe, but it doesn't mean you're a disaster, and it doesn't mean that you failed. Your journey will just continue on another path. Confronting these feelings can make Wanderhome a very uncomfortable game for those used to the standard affair of Dungeons and Dragons. For instance, there are no dungeons. There are no monsters. There is no violence. There is only the journey. On the path, you might meet people, places, things, learn about their problems, and do the best you can to ease that pain. But you aren't saving the world. You're becoming a new you. Wanderhome doesn't want this to be frightening, though. It uses its playbooks, traits, and natures to wrap you in a beautiful courage, to crystallize and hatch. It's a world of childlike wonder, full of animal folk wearing sundresses and suspenders, dotted with mossy shrines and grassy fields where you can see herds of bumblebees frolicking the flowers. You put on a character and choose the parts of that mask that suit who you are at that moment. The game takes your hand and reminds you that you are alive, that you care. And that's important, that reminder. You're doing the work already, it says. Yes, even now, just because you are alive. And sometimes that's all we can be. It doesn't rely on dice and their random chance either. Instead, you have moves, things that you can do that give you tokens, a sort of meta currency which you can spend to do more unique and special moves. You're never in fear of flubbing a roll, and you have a list of things that you would normally do, letting you be free of that stuffy anxiety that can come from the act of role-playing. The moth tender, for instance, can give someone something that they hold dear and receive a token in exchange. It's a small beauty, but to put so much weight on it, to write it down as something that you can do, it really makes it feel special. Then they can turn around and spin that token to keep someone safe from the difficulties of the world. The vagueness of that lets you hold on to your tokens until a moment when you feel the urge to act, to make those decisions that help propel you from liminality into the new you. What Wanderhome does in between the gap of its front and back cover is ask you to come on this uncertain journey, safely from the comfort of a character behind a screen, enjoying a space with your friends. There's a presence of thought and mind stitched in between the words. These gaps do not need to be unsettling. The fear of failure can be recontextualized, and through the act of journeying, you can become comfortable with the chaos of liminality. You can live with the tension and pain of uncertainty. It teaches you to let go, relax, and be changed. Standing in an empty part of the mall alone, you can see now, instead of failure, potential. Yes, this place was something, and it is not that any longer. But now it can become something else. It is merely in transition. Floating through the void of space and the gap between the planets, the thoughts can confront you. They are only questions you must ask yourself before your next journey, and they don't need answers. They can be asked silently between you and your ship. Exiting the map and seeing that fractal landscape, you can find a new game out there. You can create something beautiful. The journey will continue across the months and seasons and years. And while we wander, we will watch the leaves fall from the trees and grow again. I cannot tell you where the journey will bring us. We'll have to find that out together. Will you join me?